Hello and welcome to Brewers Daily. I'm your host, Dave Gasper. Lots to get to on the show here today as spring training officially opens. We got our first pitchers and catchers workout here today. They are in camp. Everyone's done their intake stuff. We're already seeing stuff coming out of camp, so lots to get to there. The Brewers made another free agent move that we'll get to here as well. And I want to give you some deep cuts here for spring training as names to watch as we go through the next 6 weeks. Players to keep an eye on, players where you can talk about them and it'll impress your friends. You'll be like, oh wow, this guy must really know his stuff. I've never heard of that guy, but yet somehow they're going to end up playing an impactful role at some point here. So keep an eye on that. We got some dark horse names to watch there. But I want to begin with just kind of a couple of news and notes as things have been happening down there at American Family Fields of Phoenix. So Todd Rosiak of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, he is down there already. He's been boots on the ground, being able to put out some of these reports, getting a chance to talk with Pat Murphy, talk with a bunch of the players. So he's got a lot of the information coming out. I'm not down there yet, so we rely on the guys like that to get that information out there. And Todd had some great things, just kind of come out here just to get us started when it comes to spring training information. Brandon Woodruff, obviously a lot of concern for him, and him being the qualifying offer guy, him being the ace of the staff. According to Pat Murphy from Todd here, Woodruff is in a good spot physically. He's been throwing bullpens, but his ramp up will be monitored closely. According to Murph, obviously this is a time of year where everyone's very vulnerable, so they're going to take it cautiously with Brandon Woodruff. I don't think that's going to mean he's not going to be ready for opening day, but they're going to be careful with him, and also they're going to be a little bit careful with Quinn Priester as well. As you might remember, towards the end of last season, Priester was dealing with a bit of a wrist issue, so he's going to be a bit slower out of the gate here. But he's not shut down. He's throwing some bullpens, so he will again be continuing to ramp up here over these next 6 weeks. But it doesn't seem like anything at this point that is going to put opening day in jeopardy for him. But kind of the big thing that Murph talked about with Rosiak here is kind of the infield alignment, because that's been the major question ever since Monday when Caleb Durbin, Andrew Monasterio, and Anthony Siegler all got traded. Murph said, quote, coming back, Bryce is going to get prepared to be our second baseman. Ortiz is prepared to be our shortstop, and the third base situation comes down to a handful of guys right now. End quote. So, okay, that puts to bed really the idea that Joey Ortiz could get slid back to third base. I wasn't really expecting him to get moved over there. The Brewers like what he brings at shortstop. And just, with what he was last year, being the starting shortstop, does not really see a demotion for Ortiz back over to third base, which is basically what it is. I mean, it's sort of a demotion, sort of not, because you're still in the starting lineup, but shortstop is up a scale. Defensively, in terms of importance, shortstop is just a higher level above third base. So Ortiz is not going to get that demotion. He is going to be a guy at shortstop this season. Third base, we're going to have to figure it out with the rest of the guys. It's not going to be Terang or Ortiz. It's going to be, David Hamilton, Jet Williams, other guys that they have in camp there, but not one of those top two guys. So that's kind of the big news and notes that came out there as pitchers and catchers have reported here. Now also, the list grew one bigger here as the Brewers made a free agent signing. Gary Sanchez is back. El Gary is here for another season. The Brewers signed him in 2024 to a one-year deal to be the backup for William Contreras. That went, okay-ish. He played in 89 games, did all right. Was kind of part of a three-man weave towards the end. He had 11 bombs that year, which was cool. That's kind of his calling card power. Last year, he had 5 home runs in 29 games for the Baltimore Orioles. Ended up dealing with some injuries over there in Baltimore, so he didn't really play a ton, just those 29 games. So Sanchez ends up signing to a one-year, $1.75 million deal to come into camp here, and he is going to be your new backup catcher. to William Contreras. Coming into camp, we're looking at potentially Jefferson Caro. Reese McGuire was signed to a minor league deal with a invite to big league camp. McGuire, backup catcher for the Cubs last season. And now, since Sanchez is in on a major league deal, it's likely, in all likelihood, going to be Gary Sanchez as your backup catcher, and Reese McGuire and Jefferson Caro are going to be down there in AAA. And honestly, this is kind of what I expected. Not necessarily Gary Sanchez back again, but for the Brewers to get an actual veteran catching addition to be the backup to Contreras to help bridge that a little bit for Jefferson Caro, because the Brewers do like Caro, and he is still viewed by many as the catcher of the future in Milwaukee, especially as long as William Contreras does not have a contract extension signed. So I think you want to get him regular playing time, regular at-bats, and the best way to do that is to have him in AAA, because when you're playing behind William Contreras, you're not going to play very much. It's just what it is. So it's much easier to get a guy like Gary Sanchez. You pay him a little bit, and if Sanchez struggles and if Caro's just raking and they want to give him a chance, then they can easily move off of Gary Sanchez. With his salary, they can easily just dump him and move on and not have to worry about it. So I like this move. You can see whatever Gary Sanchez has left in the tank. If you can have a somewhat healthy season there as your backup, he's got some pop. He does have some familiarity with this staff. I mean, a lot of the names on the pitching staff have changed just in the last year or so, but still, he knows the Brewers pretty well. The Brewers know him. And, this is an opportunity for him to stay in the show another season. And most importantly, an opportunity for Jefferson Caro to get regular at-bats in AAA Nashville, and they don't have to rush him to the major leagues, where he's not going to play very much, because William Contreras is still here. So that's, that's the signing that they made right as pitchers and catchers reported. They got him into camp. So I like that move. I think it's pretty solid for them, and it makes a lot of sense. Okay, so now with spring training, you got everyone coming in. Everyone's as healthy as they can possibly be for the most part. We did see a lot of names across Major League Baseball go down with injuries. We saw Corbin Carroll, Jackson Holliday, a bunch of guys with Francisco Lindor with hamate bone injuries. They broke the little bone here in their hand. As they're swinging, and having to have surgery. So, they're out for like 6 weeks because of that. Thankfully, no Brewers, knock on wood, have had that to this point. But still, that's certainly tough. But other than that, just kind of a quick aside there, everyone's coming in largely healthy. Everyone's got an opportunity to earn a big league roster spot. It is all as wide open as it can possibly be here in the start of spring training. Everyone is 0-0. It's a whole new year, a whole fresh start. Everything begins here. So I want to point out some names here to watch as Brewers spring training unfolds over the next couple of weeks. As we get to workouts, as we get to Cactus League games, players that you'll see, maybe in the 6th inning or 8th inning of some of these early spring games, where it's like minor leaguers, no one really knows who they are, but it's like, this might actually be a dude to keep an eye on. So my dark horse names for Brewers fans to watch. First one I'm circling is Tate Keener. Tate Keener is someone who is on one of my top prospects list. I've got him. My top 50 for this season is not fully out yet, but I can tell you this: he is going to be in the upper half of that top 50. Last year in my last top 50, I had him at 29. So he's moving up there. But Tate Keener, left-handed pitcher, 7th round pick back in 2023 out of Louisville. Last season for AA Biloxi, had a 2.77 ERA in 23 starts. Really, really good results there. Really good young pitcher. And I think he's someone that can move relatively quickly here. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to earn an opening day spot, but he can very quickly and very easily push himself into some big league depth here. with a very strong spring training. If he comes out, he pitches well, impresses the coaching staff, he's going to start the season in AAA. And when the Brewers kind of rotate through a bunch of guys, because let's be honest, they're going to rotate through a bunch of pitchers as the season goes along, Tate Keener can put himself on that short list of guys that they want to call upon when they have a need, whether that be in the rotation, whether that be in the bullpen. He can do both. The rotation, I mean, they already have a laundry list of guys for that rotation mix, but still, Keener could absolutely impress the coaching staff and put himself above maybe some of those guys in the pecking order with a strong spring. So Tate Keener, I mean, that is absolutely a name to keep an eye on here for the Brewers, for their potential rotation needs in the future, or even their bullpen needs in the future. He's been a starter in the Brewers minor league system. His ultimate role may be in the bullpen, just because the Brewers are just so stacked with high-level starting pitchers. But still, he is someone who can certainly make an impact, and he can make a name for himself this spring. So keep an eye on Tate Keener when you see him there in games in the Cactus League. Next up, I want to bring up here Eddys Leonard. Okay, this was kind of a not really thought about minor league signing back in November. Okay, so back in the early part of the offseason, the Brewers signed Eddys Leonard to a minor league deal with an invite to big league spring training. Leonard spent last season in AAA Gwinnett. He's yet to make his MLB debut, 25 years old, but he is an infielder with over 700 innings of third base experience. So with third base being absolutely wide open right now, I mean, it is as wide open as it can possibly be. Eddys Leonard, if he has a strong spring, absolutely can push himself into the conversation for a big league roster spot. Doesn't have a 40-man spot right now. The Brewers do have one open 40-man spot, by the way. But Eddys Leonard, if he comes out swinging in spring, and he certainly can. He popped 20 homers last season for AAA Gwinnett in the Braves system. He's got some speed as well, had 11 stolen bases. So Eddys Leonard, that's going to be someone to keep an eye on. He's not really thought of. We're all looking at David Hamilton, Jet Williams, potentially for that third base spot, but Leonard could earn himself an opportunity here. He's yet to make that big league debut, but a strong spring, and he's absolutely in that conversation because he's actually got plenty of AAA experience. He's 25 years old. He's a few years older than Jet Williams. Jet Williams only has 34 games of AAA experience. So Leonard might actually be more MLB ready than Williams. So he can put himself, in there for third base, for the utility spot. If Hamilton's your starting guy, if the Brewers want to have Jet Williams get a little bit more seasoning in AAA, Eddys Leonard is probably in the best position to push Jet Williams out for this opening day roster. So that is absolutely a name to keep an eye on, a name to watch as camp goes along, because Brock Wilken and some of those other prospects, they're not ready quite yet. But Eddys Leonard has the experience that he absolutely could be ready for that. So keep an eye on him. And lastly here, the third name that I want to bring up and mention, another early offseason addition, Sammy Peralta. The Brewers claimed him off waivers from the Los Angeles Angels right around the end of the season there, right before even the end of season press conference that Matt Arnold and Pat Murphy had. That was a claim that they made, and they have kept Sammy Peralta throughout the entire offseason. He's a left-handed pitcher, soft tosser, out of the bullpen, but he absolutely could put himself in that bullpen mix. The Brewers do have a ton of lefties out there, for sure, but he's a sinker-slider guy. The Brewers clearly see something that they like in him when they put in a claim for him on waivers, and they've kept him on the 40-man throughout the entire offseason. So Sammy Peralta could factor into this bullpen mix here for the Brewers. Even if not initially, at some point throughout the season, as the Brewers rotate through guys, it happens every single season. So Sammy Peralta is going to be another name to keep an eye on. When you see him in Cactus League games, watch how he pitches, see how he does, the results that he gets, how stuff is moving. That is absolutely a name to consider here, because he's in that bullpen mix. And, that's certainly going to be a competitive group, but I like what the Brewers can potentially do with him as a middle reliever with this team. So those are my names to keep an eye on as spring training goes along here. Sammy Peralta, Eddys Leonard, and Tate Keener It's really a strong group that the Brewers have here in camp, and it's going to be really, really fascinating camp battles here all across, especially at third base with what the Brewers are going to do there with their internal options. If they don't add anyone else from the outside, Eddie Leonard really could find himself in a very advantageous spot. Lastly here, what I want to transition to, just talking about Todd Rosiak, down there in Arizona at the moment, and he put out this article today as well in the Journal Sentinel about Pat Murphy, camp opening, and he mentioned that Murphy still hasn't confirmed about any sort of contract extension. Asked about it. I mean, obviously, Murph has been manager of the year the last 2 seasons, his first 2 seasons as a manager. So you would imagine that would be someone that you would want to sign an extension to. And he was originally on a 3-year deal, I believe it was. So this would be the last season of his contract. Most managers don't like to be lame ducks, especially after you win back-to-back Manager of the Year awards. So you would imagine that the Brewers would have signed Pat Murphy to a contract extension. Well, even if they have, they ain't talking about it. Pat Murphy has not confirmed it. He's trying to put the focus on all the guys. He doesn't want to say, yes, I signed one or not. He didn't say that he hasn't signed one. But also, Matt Arnold doesn't like talking about coaches' contracts. He's not really bringing up that they've signed Murph to an extension. But it would make sense. Why wouldn't you sign him to an extension? I understand that he's in his upper 60s at this point. But still, Murph seems to be as young and high energy as ever. And there's certainly nothing like, even if you don't want to do a 5+ year extension, you can still do a couple of years and get this guy across. So I would have to imagine one has gotten done or will get done at some point here in spring training. I can't imagine we get to opening day and Pat Murphy does not have a contract extension. And whether he gets one or he doesn't, they may just simply not tell us. The Brewers like to keep those coaches' contracts under wraps as much as possible. They don't want to make that public information. So it is possible he's already gotten one. But no one will confirm it, so we don't know. So we almost have to operate as if he hasn't gotten a contract extension until we just keep on asking enough, and then finally just like, oh, fine, yes, he got one. I don't even need to know the years. I don't need to know the terms. I don't need to know how much money he's getting paid or anything like that. Just has he gotten one? And it should be simple, but again, the Brewers like to keep that under wraps. But we'll see as spring goes along if that continues or if they'll finally just relent and just tell us what's happening with that contract situation. But that is certainly going to be something to watch as well because baseball is back. And it's so fun. It's so exciting to see baseball back here. Pitchers and catchers reporting. We're getting videos of the crack of the bat, the pop of the mitt. It's sweet music. It is beautiful. I can't wait for it. And we'll be continuing to cover it and talk about it every single day here on Brewers Daily. So be sure to subscribe, get notified every single time a new episode drops, and follow me on Twitter at dgasper24. And we'll continue pushing the content. We'll continue being able to cover our favorite team, the Milwaukee Brewers. So thank you for listening. Thank you for enjoying. And we'll see you again next time for another episode of Brewers Daily.